Okay, we are the world's second largest producer of fish by volume, not by value. A trawler is a huge vacuum pump, which just kind of picks up everything, useful and not useful.
Yeah.
We have just destroyed the marine ecosystems, and with many breeds now almost extinct, on the verge of extinction. So there is a worldwide pressure to move from fishing to inland aquaculture. Movement away from fishing into technology-led inland aquaculture is referred to as Blue Revolution. Globally, aquaculture is a $300 billion industry. Global smartphone industry is 600 billion.
Yeah.
This is half the size of the smartphone industry. So you can imagine how big it is. Protein, instead of relying on American corn and soya, what we are doing is we are relying on, or we are planning to rely on insect protein. So this is a new innovation we have kind of brought in. So insect protein goes into fish feed, goes into fish production, goes into fish distribution, goes into fish retail, 6 verticals. So the moment we have all the 6 verticals up and running, we become a comprehensive full stack aquaculture company. Post college, I was a journalist. Then I went to do my MBA from Ahmedabad, passed out, was into management consulting, ran a software company, then joined politics. 2004. I am the first IIM grad across all the IIMs to be in politics.
So my name is Rajiv, and this is Zarif with me.
Hello.
So the purpose of building this podcast was to gain as much as information we can directly from the people who are on ground working and understand the industry really well. And by getting ourselves educated, we are hoping that others who all can get access to this kind of recordings will also gain much more information rather than what is currently available on any other platforms as such. Yeah. So yes, would love to understand your introduction. From your profile, we've understood that you're CEO of Bonphul Foods and you're IIM Ahmedabad graduate. And tell us a bit about yourself. How you found yourself at the helm of aquaculture company?
Well, I have worn too many hats on my head. Post college, I was a journalist. Then I went to do my MBA from Ahmedabad, passed out, was into management consulting, ran a software company, then joined politics. 2004. I am the first IIM grad across all the IIMs to be in politics.
Wow.
So I was a part of BJP's media cell. Then I started BJP's IT cell. I'm the founder of BJP's IT cell.
Wow. Okay.
Then I ran the campaign offices of Mr. Advani when he was the prime ministerial candidate in 2009. I became general secretary for BJP in Assam. Then, along with Smriti Irani, I was one of the 2 youngest national executives of the BJP before I resigned in 2015. And since then, I have been an entrepreneur. And so the first startup I launched was Bonphul Air Products. Today, Bonphul Air Products is solving a major issue in Indian healthcare, which is the availability of oxygen. I mean, we saw during COVID, the great, supply-demand mismatch of oxygen. And that continues in the country. You go to small towns, you have an emergency and you need oxygen. You may not get oxygen, and therefore life may not be able to be saved. And you may, in fact, be turned away from a hospital saying that hamare yahan emergency services nahi hai, oxygen nahi hai, please go to so-and-so hospital. Because the moment an accident happens, the first thing you need to do is to give this person oxygen and keep him alive till the time the doctor comes. And the doctor is not always available, particularly in a small town. Right? So what we have created is the world's, not India's, the world's most compact, energy efficient and affordable oxygen generator for hospitals.
Nice.
And today we have already crossed about 50 hospitals. And our vision is that in about 5 years, we should reach 1,000 hospitals across India.
Amazing.
So this is the first adventure, but this is where I got introduced to oxygen and the application of oxygen. So globally, I found that aquaculture uses oxygen in a big way. Because to the question that what determines the density of fish in a certain volume of water, the answer is the amount of dissolved oxygen and feed available.
Right.
So the more the amount of dissolved oxygen in water, the higher density of fish you can have. And if you're familiar with something called RAS, recirculating aquaculture system, which is indoor fishing and you keep circulating the water, it is entirely dependent on oxygen that is inserted into the water.
Okay.
Okay, so that is how we discovered aquaculture, and we realized this opportunity. Globally, aquaculture is a $300 billion industry. Now, this number may not make sense to somebody, but let me put it in perspective. The global smartphone industry is 600 billion. And smartphone means almost every person today has a phone, right? Or the world is moving towards where each person has a smartphone, right?
Yeah.
This is half the size of the smartphone industry. So you can imagine how big it is. So when we saw this opportunity and the situation in India, where the industry is completely informal, completely unstructured, right? And at the same time that we discovered it, the government of India started talking of a blue revolution. So we put all the two and two together and said that, hey, this is a great opportunity to enter this sector. And that's how Bonphul Foods, the vision for Bonphul Foods came about. We said that we had one great example in front of us, Amul, which is a completely full stack dairy company. We said, why not create a full stack, a comprehensive aquaculture company? And we said, we will become the Amul of aquaculture.
Yeah.
Could you go into like what you mean by full stack? Like what are the components of a full stack?
Absolutely.
Like Amul, like Bonphul.
Correct. So we have divided it into 6 verticals, but you need to understand the economics of this industry. Globally, 50% of the cost of fish production is the cost of feed. Okay? So because your feed is money you are throwing into the water, hoping that the fish will eat and the fish will become big. So 50% is the cost of feed. And if you go to any manufacturer, he'll tell you that 50% of the cost of the feed cost is the cost of protein. So Indian feed manufacturers typically depend on corn and soya to manufacture their feed. And in our country, we don't produce enough corn and soya, so it's mostly imported from the United States.
Yeah.
Corn and soya. So this is how it happens. So corn and soya goes into fish feed goes into fish production distribution, and then retail, right? So these are the 6 verticals. So how we have divided it is in terms of protein. Instead of relying on American corn and soya, what we are doing is we are relying on, or we are planning to rely on, insect protein. So this is a new innovation we have kind of brought in. So insect protein goes into fish feed, goes into fish production, goes into fish distribution, goes into fish retail, 6 verticals. So the moment we have all the 6 verticals up and running, we become a comprehensive full stack aquaculture company.
Nice.
You want to just go give us more detail on the other verticals? Of course, we understand when you said insect protein. When it comes to distribution, when it comes to production, a good example there would help us understand when you say full stack, what kind of verticals are being built there, or what is the thought process there?
Okay, I'll go one by one if that helps. Sure. Now say protein. What is a fish? A fish is feed converted to flesh, right?
Yeah.
So the better the feed you give the fish, it will be a more tasty and a nutritious fish.
Right.
Right. So you have to go to the source. And what is the source? The source is the protein from which fish feed is made.
Right.
Right. Now, Globally, in all tribal communities, insects are considered a delicacy. In India itself, in Chhattisgarh, among tribals, in the Northeast, among tribals, humans consume insects. It's a delicacy.
Yeah.
You go to China and Korea, insects are a delicacy, right?
Right.
So about 20 years back, as the competition for land, as the demand for land, arable land, agricultural land,
Yeah.
started increasing, and there were three sources of demand for land. One was food for human consumption. Second was feed for animal consumption. And third was biofuels, ethanol for fuel, right? So you can use a piece of land to do either of the three.
Yeah.
So as the demand for biofuel and human consumption increased with the burgeoning population, people started thinking, what is an alternate source of animal or fish protein? And then they started looking at this world of insects. Now, there are thousands or maybe millions of insects, different breeds of insects, right? So the world narrowed down on an insect called BSF, black soldier fly. What the black soldier fly does is that it consumes kitchen waste. Okay? And then it starts putting on weight. And it has a 30-day cycle where the larva becomes a mature pupa. And if you don't stop it there, in another 10 days, it's going to become a fly. Just like a butterfly. That's how a butterfly.
Yeah.
So same thing here. So what you do is that you give the insect kitchen waste, starts putting on weight. 30 days later, you take it, you roast it, and you ground it into fine powder. This powder can then be attached with other things and made into fish feed or animal feed. Okay. So what we have done, our great innovation is we have created an insect farm in a climate controlled shipping container.
Yeah.
Okay. So you take your kitchen waste, maybe from a hotel or anywhere where kitchen waste is produced in big numbers, maybe in a residential colony, and you put it inside that container. 30 days later, you get your mature pupa. Okay. So this is what we have done. We ran this pilot for about a year at IIT Kharagpur and ICAR Bhubaneswar, Indian Council for Agricultural Research, Bhubaneswar. And we got excellent results. And now we are starting to roll it out. Our first container has been bought by the Centurion University in Orissa as a demonstration thing. But we are now going to start producing this BSF insect ourselves.
I have a quick question. When it comes to alternative protein sources which are available in the market, when you said soya and corn, right? And the challenges behind it is mostly in importing and the price fluctuations.
The price fluctuation.
Right.
So the price, based on how, global commodity prices move, they swing a lot.
Right.
And that causes kind of problems.
So is that insect protein an alternative towards
more
sustainable output, or
yes, of course. You are converting waste, which otherwise would have gone into a landfill, into wealth. And the biggest cost in waste management is not the disposal of the waste, but the transportation. Just see, the waste has to be picked up from your house, then it goes to a depot, then it goes to a landfill, the transportation cost. So by capturing waste at source, wherever waste is being collected, in a mandi, in a hotel, in a residential colony, or wherever. So capturing it at source and then converting it into wealth, I think is a great value add.
So will you say that the conversion process, the cost of the conversion process is minimized to a certain extent where the protein can match what's currently available?
Yes, of course. And in fact, globally, it's a successful model. The biggest company in this space is a French company called Insect. The insect, they write it as YN, not IN. YNSECT. Insect. They have got an investment, not valuation, investment of $450 million. That's the kind of big, because, people have been thinking about, managing waste. And this is the most eco-friendly waste way to kind of dispose of, at least organic waste. We are not talking of inorganic waste that requires a separate process, but organic waste, this is the best possible thing.
Yeah, and I guess like whenever you capture waste at source and like you cut out all of the additional costs of transportation, you've already won half the battle, right?
Yes, half the battle won.
And you mentioned that 50% of your cost is feed and 50% of that cost is protein.
Protein, yes.
What kind of protein content are you seeing with the BSF powder that you're creating?
See, that entirely depends on what you feed the BSF.
Yeah.
But you can get superb this thing, about 60% protein content.
Oh, wow.
Which is very high. Depends again, I'm saying up to 60% this thing, depending on what you feed the insect. Yes.
Yeah, on an average with your pilot, on an average with your pilot, what was the costing coming around?
Very little. You put it inside the container and the insect keeps on eating the food, and the only thing is the cost of keeping it climate controlled. We maintain it at a particular temperature. Right. So you have an AC running. Now that AC, if you can put a solar panel on top of it, again comes down to zero.
Yeah.
So that's all.
But there are variable costs involved as well, right?
Of course, there will be variable cost of managing it, but it is not active management. You see, we are putting it in a climate controlled shipping container. So we don't want people going in, going out every day, every moment, right? So you go in once a day, you put in your new waste, lock up the container, go to sleep. So it's a very passive, very low overheads kind of operation.
Right. So you're marrying these containers alongside your aquaculture setups, right?
Yeah, so it will be in various places. It is all not in one place. But each of these units of ours will be in different places. Yes, but they will all have linkages.
Okay.
Can you move to, I guess, Zarif was more interested in deep diving into this, which is Blue Revolution.
Yes.
Zarif, you have anything else before we want to dive?
Yeah, I actually wanted to know, like in India, what is the current state of the aquaculture industry? And how do we compare in terms of or how does the aquaculture industry compare in terms of other competing food sources for the Indian economy in terms of just the overall output and I guess consumption of seafood also requires you to be non-vegetarian, so that's a big chunk of the Indian market that's taken away. But where do you see the aquaculture industry in the next 3 to 5 years?
Both good and bad.
Okay.
The good news is that India has a long tradition of fish eating all along the coast.
Yeah.
If you leave aside Gujarat, from the Maharashtra coast up to Karnataka, Kerala, Tamil Nadu, Andhra, Orissa, Bengal, all along the coast we have fish, and even in the northeast. Anyway, you have rice. Rice and fish go very well. All the rice-eating belts, they have fish. The good news is, India has a very strong tradition of local fish. For example, the number one fish we sell, because we are also fish retailers in Guwahati. So the most fish volume of fish we sell is in Assam is rohu. It's the most popular fish in Assam. In Bengal, the most popular fish is hilsa. In Andhra, the most popular is probably murel. In Goa, it is possibly kingfish.
Right.
So each of our places, we have a very strong tradition of local fish. So this is the good part of it. And India also, we produce a humongous amount of fish. Okay, we are the world's second largest producer of fish, but with a caveat. Second largest by volume, not by value. By value, we are out of the top 10. We are not even in the top 10.
That's counterintuitive because it
Yes,
should
it's
be by
counterintuitive.
volume that
The
determines the value, right?
Sure. The reason is because fish is a commodity in India, right? Abroad, fish is a product and most possibly a well-known brand. You never buy open fish, you'd buy branded fish.
Right.
See, a glass of water in this glass, doesn't have any value.
Yeah.
You put it in this bottle,
Yeah.
value increases. You put a brand on top of it, value increases much more.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
Same thing is the case of fish in India. In fact, fish in India socially has a very, very low kind of standing in society. If you remember your school, your teacher would possibly have said, don't make the class into a fish market.
Yeah.
So the fish market is seen as something, dirty, something noisy, something this. But globally, it is not. Okay. So now, and if you look even at the people who are connected with this trade, our fishermen, 14.5 million fishermen we have in India, they are typically the lowest section of the society. Very low education level, very low, your network capital, all that. So it's a very, very subdued industry, but the potentials are massive. Why I say potentials are massive? Because if you look at Indian exports, the government of India proudly says that we have exported this much. I think the numbers, if I am not forgotten, is about 8 billion. We export about 8 billion worth of fish in the broadest terms, but it is not correct. 70% of that 8 billion is shrimp. Now, shrimp is also marine life, but is not a fish.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so while India is the world's topmost exporter of shrimp, but in terms of finfish is fish with a fin.
Yeah.
Okay, finfish, we are nowhere. Okay, so this gives us so there is therefore a tremendous export potential in the world. Number one. Number two, I would want to draw your attention to something else, which is the moving away from fishing to aquaculture. Now, most people don't understand the difference between this, just as most people don't understand the difference between sales and marketing, accounts and finance. They're different things, right? So fishing is the catching of wild fish, whether in the sea, whether in the lake, whether in the river, whether in your pond. You've not grown the fish. The fish grows on its own and you go and just catch it. Catching is fishing. Aquaculture is the growing of your own fish in a controlled environment and preferably inland. So globally, what has happened is because of overfishing in the world's oceans, you have now huge spots of dead zones where there is not a single fish, because the dissolved oxygen level in those areas have almost become zero. So no fish can survive there. Okay, so this is happening. If you just type in ocean dead zone in Google, you would kind of see how big the problem is, number one. Number two, by overfishing, by using trawlers. What is a trawler? A trawler is a huge vacuum pump, which just kind of picks up everything, useful and not useful. Yeah. We have just destroyed the marine ecosystems, and with many breeds now almost extinct, on the verge of extinction. So there is a worldwide pressure to move from fishing to inland aquaculture. Yeah. So there again, there is a huge possibility in India.
Yeah, amazing.
A dead zone, actually, just searching it clearly states a lot of issues there.
Huge issues.
And I mean, I'm guessing ocean dissolved oxygen depends a lot more on your marine plants.
Planktons, yeah,
Right.
plants, planktons, all that. But you
And
see,
the trawling, I'm guessing, erodes away most of that
most of
marine
that.
life, right?
I mean, maybe you'd get about 20% useful fish, which you want, and 80% would be other stuff, and
Right.
you have killed it.
Yeah.
You have destroyed the whole environment.
Yeah, and like bringing aquaculture inland also gives the oceans a chance to rebound.
Absolutely,
Um,
absolutely,
yeah,
absolutely.
fair enough. And I guess now, like in the Indian perspective, and since you've been working on this since 2015, you've also like seen the rise of the Blue Revolution in India. So what is your take on the Blue Revolution? Well, I guess we can start with like, what exactly is that, and what are the benefits that you see accruing for us?
Well, the term blue revolution is largely applied to aquaculture because human beings have been doing fishing from not just prehistoric times,
Yeah.
till the time since they became humans, right? So fishing has been going on. But the movement away from fishing into technology-led inland aquaculture is referred to as blue revolution. Broadly, this is it. Now, of course, there are different technologies there. There is something called RAS, recirculatory aquaculture system. There is cage-based aquaculture, you know. So there are different technologies for it, but broadly, this is, the movement away from fishing to aquaculture is referred to as the Blue Revolution. India has been very slow to recognize it, and part of it is political. We have 14.5 million fishermen in the country, and they are very, very politically strong. So the government has preferred not to pay attention to this segment and,
Right.
let the situation prevail it is. Only about 2 years back, just almost only about 2 years back, the government of India started a ministry for fisheries at the national level. So till 2 years back,
Yeah.
India did not have a ministry for fisheries. It was lumped with agriculture.
Right.
So there was no focus there. So 2 years back, the ministry has been formed. Now they are trying to do something, but I'm not sure I'm seeing too much of an impact on the ground.
Okay.
So there are central schemes like the Pradhan Mantri Matsya Palak Yojana and this and that Yojana. But you see, to transform an industry, you need to take a different approach. You cannot be doing more of the same, right? You have to create the demonstration effect. Just tell me something. Could Indian IT have taken on without the TCS, Infosys, Wipros, and HCLs of the world?
Yeah. You need a model to follow.
Yeah, the biggest thing they did was it created a model for other IT entrepreneurs to emulate them, right? So you need to create national champions. Today, if you look at the biggest aquaculture companies in the world, there's a Japanese company called MNC, Maruha Nishiro Corporation, 11.36 billion. The second company is Nisui, again Japanese, 5.49 billion. The third is a Thai company, Thai Union, 4.7 billion. So there are the possibilities of creating these billion-dollar companies. And by billion-dollar, I don't mean valuation. I mean sales of $1 billion. Today, we have unicorns in India, which are billion-dollar value, but have hardly 50 millions of sales.
Yeah.
So I'm talking of $1 billion of sales. So there are possibilities to create these national champions, which in turn causes a demonstration effect to other entrepreneurs, which in turn kind of causes a technology upgradation. Today, most of aquaculture that we have in India, primarily in states like, say, Bengal, Orissa, Andhra, in terms of our technology level, we are fairly low when you compare to someone like in Israel. The kind of innovation that is happening in Israel, the kind of innovation that is happening in Norway. Norway is the fishing capital of the world as far as technology is concerned.
Hmm.
And all these countries, we are nowhere. Now, we will be somewhere only when we have a couple of national champions that look at the technology level in those countries and try to do the same in India. And when they do the same in India, that becomes a demonstration for other people to follow.
Right.
Can you state some challenges, firstly, on the farming level, on the ground level? What is the reality, so that we understand how is technology going to affect, and why is this a bigger unorganized sector in the Indian context?
So, because, just like farming, this thing, most fish farmers, for them, this is not the primary occupation. So, fish is a subsidiary thing to their main thing of farming. Now, some people, at least in Andhra and the Godavari Delta there, have taken it up on full time. But if you look at the rest of the country, it's still not a prime vocation. So you have the scale of operation is very small. The education level of farmers is very low. The market linkages are very poor, and what we have seen in some places in Assam, the number of intermediaries, market intermediaries, are too many, sometimes up to 6 between the producer and the consumer. So, all those kind of challenges that you have in the farming sector, or used to have in the farming sector till the Green Revolution. The Green Revolution brought about a lot of changes. It brought about mechanization, it brought in commercial fertilizers and other stuff. But pre-Green Revolution, the challenges that you had in Indian agriculture, the same set of challenges today you have in Indian aquaculture, which is why a blue revolution is seriously needed.
So like you guys have set up a logistics arm as well, right? So in the full stack journey, and creating this model that others can hopefully like replicate, um like what are the first steps to building this like success? Like, is it making sure that we integrate smaller aquaculture projects and fisheries to the market? Or is it solving the feed issue and making sure that our feed source is sustainable?
See, the biggest challenge, after selling fish for 2 years,
Mm-hmm.
we find the biggest challenge is quality. Because a fish, as I said, is feed converted into flesh.
Right.
How do I ensure that the small farmer feeds his fish properly? Even if I give him feed, he might go and sell the feed in the open market and, still feed the fish his kitchen waste.
Right.
So quality is uneven.
Mm.
So what we are attempting to do in our company is do the entire value chain in-house and set quality parameters.
Right.
For example, if you have to sell in the global market, you need 2 certifications. One is BAP and one is ASC. BAP stands for Best Aquaculture Practices. ASC stands for Aquaculture Sustainability Certification. Okay. Now, today, even if I become an aggregator of produce of small farmers, it's very difficult for me to move them up to a BAP or a ASC standard. And even if I do it, it becomes financially impossible for them to get those certifications.
Hmm.
Okay. So we ourselves, Bonphul wants to become a BAP ASC certified production company. So we produce fish to global standards.
Right.
What does this global standard mean in practical terms? What is this certification? Is it like a ISO 9000 certification, which everybody has? No. In this, we have to record everything about the fish from its birth to the time it is kind of shipped out in blockchain.
Hmm.
When was this baby fish put into water? What was it fed on day 1, day 2, day 3, every day? What medicines? What medicines did you give him?
Hmm.
Okay, suppose you gave him too much of antibiotics.
Right.
because that goes into the human body,
Yeah.
right? So every detail about the fish has to be captured in blockchain. That level of food quality. You see, today, I mean, isn't it sad for our country that two of the biggest spices brands have been blacklisted by Singapore and Hong
Yeah.
Kong?
Yeah.
So just imagine, and these are some of the biggest brands in the country.
Correct.
Just
Yeah.
imagine the kind of food we are consuming. So
Totally.
similar is the case with fish. You know, you go to a restaurant, you have the fish, it is full of spices and all. You can't make out the fish quality. You don't know where the fish grew, whether it grew in a clean water, dirty water.
Yeah.
Right. So what we want to do is to move up that, get into assured food quality.
Yeah.
Okay. And for that, we have to do the production ourselves. Tomorrow something goes wrong, the company has to take ownership of it. It can't say that, that farmer supplied me this fish and therefore, he's responsible, I'm not responsible.
Yeah.
So responsible food production, that's what we kind of want to do. So we are not tying up with farmers. We are doing everything. We want to do everything in-house so that we become answerable for quality.
If you want to add anything here?
No, I think like
I had one question because I guess yesterday when we were trying to discuss what are the possible outcomes when it comes to full stack solution, and eventually when it comes to retailing is a very unique proposition altogether, and it comes with its own challenges, right? You want to shed some light on the retailing market as such, also how when you said a water bottle with a brand gets you that premium, which is required for your entire stack to be profitable, because otherwise the entire production or the revolution in itself wouldn't work out well.
Not quite. We have in fact done the impossible, that is without producing fish ourselves. By taking third-party fish, we have been able to command a premium and we have become a profitable company.
Okay.
Today, if you look at someone like, say, Lysias, big guys, they have been loss-making for the last 3 years, average of 500 crores, 500 crores, 500 crores, 500 crores, loss.
Yeah.
We became profitable in 18 months. And today, we broke even in 18 months, and today we are completely profitable. How? Number one is, of course, our scale of operations is very small, but we have gone to farmers and ensured that we get good quality fish. Okay, so that is the biggest challenge. As I said, the biggest challenge in retailing today is ensuring fish quality. So because we have been able to ensure quality by working with a very select group of farmers and suppliers, we have been able to give good quality fish and also command a premium. And we have not yet started branding it.
Right.
Please understand that we'll brand our fish only when we produce it ourselves.
Got it.
Right? So today our fish is still a commodity.
Does your production, when it goes in-house, scalability issues will also be addressed in the parent hand side, where you understand, because the unit of economics will change when your demand gets broader and bigger, right? Doing it in-house comes with a certain challenges, and you'll have to go think of scale also on those.
See, every business is challenging. The problem with people like us, and particularly with an MBA degree, is that we don't like to get our hands dirty. And which is why in all this food space, we have a lot of intermediaries and, aggregators and, quick commerce and whatnot, but nobody wants to get into production. Right? So yes, it is challenging, but that is where your value is. I mean, can I expect a small uneducated fish farmer to produce ASC quality and BAP quality fish? No.
Yeah.
Somebody with, proper education, proper, processes can only produce that quality fish. So you're concerned about scalability. Scalability is not an issue. India has enough water bodies which are lying idle.
Right.
Okay. By being in India, inland, I'm not even talking of oceans, by being in India, inland, If we get the money, we can be the biggest fish company in the world. There are enough water bodies in India to do production at scale. So it's just a function of money.
So, I mean, like just to stay on the same topic is of scale, like we know that like we have confidence that scaling the aquaculture part is a task that you're going to take on.
I'll give you an example. Suddenly something struck my mind. Just to put things in perspective. The whole size of Delhi Pradesh, of which Mr. Kejriwal is the chief minister, is 1,450 square kilometers. Okay. 1,400 or 1,500 square kilometers around.
Sure.
Okay. The Hirakud Dam Reservoir is 83,000 square kilometers. The Rihan Dam Reservoir is 50,000 square kilometers. Do you know the kind of water bodies we have? Just scale up.
So back to my question, and I understand there's definitely enough water, but in terms of scaling the feed for the aquaculture, right? And you've bet on BSF. And me and Rajiv have both done extensive research and spent a lot of time
on BSF,
figuring out the scale of BSF.
I'll tell you what we have done in BSF, how we are going to scale up.
Amazing.
Biggest challenge in scaling up BSF India is getting segregated waste.
Right.
Because India, you don't have segregated waste at source.
Yeah.
And post-segregation is very expensive. You can't do it. Right? So what we have done is our BSF company, BioFly, it's a 50-50 joint venture between Bonphul Foods and HR Enviro, which is a waste management company.
Wow.
They do waste management in, I think, 23 municipalities of Andhra Pradesh.
Okay.
So they give us segregated organic waste. So we get segregated organic waste cheaper than anybody else trying to do BSF in India.
Nice.
Yeah.
Also,
so that's our secret. That's
I was
our
about
secret
to ask the price of the waste because that's also where we find the most, like, as soon as it gets above 8 rupees a kg, we are basically screwed.
We get it dirt cheap,
Amazing.
Nobody gets waste as cheap as we do.
And segregated for that.
And segregated. Pure waste. We don't have to segregate it. Okay? So instead of trying to do it yourself, I would suggest that anybody with such ideas come and invest in us. Nobody can beat us in the price of waste.
God. Rajiv, do you I think we were discussing our BSF, like we did have a pilot in mind a while ago, and since then we've spoken to enough people in the industry that it gives us heart that people are working on this at various different scales. But for us to get our hands in it at this point, I think more as investors than people that run a pilot project.
Yeah. So, from very beginning, we were very clear that our biggest challenge is going to be waste collection and good quality organic waste collection, segregated waste collection. And this is why we did it, and we get the best waste possible.
Are you guys running any like research projects on, because I know this is something that people in the industry want like a certification on, is what can we expect the protein content to be? Like you said, upwards of 60%, but then in terms of like making sure that you always hit that minimum mark.
See, it is purely a function of what you feed the insect, right? Suppose I feed the insect, say, fish waste.
Yeah.
I put it in a, like in the Ghazipur Mandi in Delhi, which is a non-veg market, the biggest non-veg market in India, possibly. So I'll get all kind of chicken waste, fish waste there. Very high protein diet.
Yeah.
So you get that. Now you are going to feed them apple waste.
Yeah.
You get low this thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, it depends on the situation.
Yeah.
what kind of protein you get. And you don't always need high-level protein. Even your fish feeds, the protein level is kind of varying. Somebody will be 30%, somebody 35%, So this is good.
It shows that HR Enviro is also a social enterprise.
No.
Looking forward to have a word with them. Yeah. Because so for the last 2 years, I've been working in I built this company by the name AgriMarket, which is again procuring of all food waste and trying to solve it for the pyramid of the food waste from human consumption to the land. From there, we came out to understand BSF looks like the solution which could solve it.
Absolutely.
Then we also understood the unit.
Ours is a very dispersed company. So our insect operations are out of Hyderabad.
Yeah.
Our retail operations are in Guwahati. I sit in Gurgaon, managing the company from here. And so it's completely disparate.
So eventually, would you have to build, like when you get your own production units, will you be building your BSF containers? Would they be on site? Or will it be
BSF containers will always be at the source of waste creation, wherever they are.
And how did you get to that as best practice? Like, is it I mean, you said that the sourcing of the waste is the biggest issue. But in our case, we've also spoken to a lot of people that want to be closer to, so with poultry farms, they would rather have the production of the larvae to be closer to the poultry farm and solve that logistics issue as opposed to the closeness to waste. So what made you
think? If you don't do it close to waste, there's a chance that the waste might get mixed.
Okay.
So organic, inorganic could get mixed.
Right.
So you don't want that, even by accident. Right. You see, today, if you look at India's waste carrying infrastructure, we are not very strict about organic, inorganic. Same truck, we will dump this also and dump that also. So this is the problem. So it's much better to be closer to the point of waste creation rather than the point of consumption. Consumption, you can transport it once the insect is ready and the powder is ready. You can kind of transport it anyway. That's not a problem.
Right. We did a digital conference a couple of weeks back by the name LarvaCon India. So the focus was to get the entire global market and the Indian market address everything in regards to BSF.
Right.
So there was a lot of insights which came up, so that made us realize that there is more to the cycle rather than just solving for BSF as food conversion. Also understand where the output could be premiumized or monetarily beneficial to make it a sustainable practice.
Right.
Very interesting, and a few more pilots will help us realize where exactly the potential is. And talking to you made us at least give some good insight where exactly it could be, right? And how companies not just understand the theory practice of a revolution, but actually incorporate it and also at the same time educate it so that people understand. And we can, within Hyderabad also, if there are BSF companies, there are also fishing and aqua companies. And we can get that kind of awareness and also make them do the changes a bit here and there so that we can reach the quality standards faster.
What India needs is investors like Hatch.Blue. If you go to Google and type in Hatch, Hatch, Hatch.Blue. Now, this is a VC firm that invests only in aquaculture, nothing else.
Can you repeat the name?
Hatch, Hatch. Hatch.Blue.
Okay. A global catalyst for a climate smart, truly sustainable, and just seafood transition.
Absolutely.
That's quite a mission statement.
Yes, they invest only in aquaculture. So we are looking at them as a potential investor in Bonphul in the future, but provided we reach their scale. They don't come in at the seed level. They come in at Series A and beyond. Their ticket sizes are big, but this is something that we are kind of looking at. But in India, sitting in Hyderabad, and because you have a strong fish eating culture in Hyderabad and Andhra, if you can impress upon people, or maybe you guys yourself, start an investment fund only for aquaculture, just like another Hatch.Blue. So Hatch.Blue is one example. There are quite a few investors globally that do only aquaculture. So that's the level of specialization they've built up.
Yeah, and I think you've convinced us that the need to move inland and leave the oceans alone for a long period of time is necessary. We have the water resources for it inland as well.
Yeah.
Do you see any challenges in terms of I guess are there any risks to running this inland, to maybe surrounding environment, the surrounding community?
No, see, anything that you do on land or in ocean has an environmental footprint. Anything you do, right? The whole point is to kind of put in place systems and the regulatory framework to ensure that that environmental footprint is minimal.
Correct.
Right. So you have to choose the lesser devil. Overfishing in ocean is the bigger devil.
Yeah.
It's kind of destroyed our oceans.
Right.
And people still don't understand enough about the oceans. People know more about the moon than they know about the oceans.
Yeah, that's true.
Because your research vessels can go only to a particular length, a particular depth.
Yeah.
The water pressure doesn't allow you to go beyond a particular depth, maybe 300 meters, 500 meters, unless you're very, very specialized crafts.
Yeah.
So we know more about the atmosphere, we know more about the moon, we know more about the sun than we know about the oceans.
Correct.
And we have kind of damaged the oceans like nobody's business.
Yeah.
So it is much safer, therefore, to get aquaculture onto land where it can be observed, where it can be monitored.
Yeah.
You can monitor anybody, 1,000 kilometers away from the coast, right?
Yeah.
He can do whatever he wants.
And how do you build a regulatory framework if the industry itself is still ramping up, right? Do you have to observe?
This is a big kind of a challenge, At least the first steps have been made that at least at the central level, you have formed a ministry 2 years back. That's the first step. Unfortunately, I come from the political world, and I can tell you very honestly that even in the States, the most useless guy is made the fishery minister.
Yeah.
So therefore, he just bids his time till he gets a better portfolio, and, nobody's interested. But I do hope that some enlightened soul comes back and sees the possibility and does something about it. The world population, the way it is exploding, India has this great potential to feed the world, at least a part of the world. We are one of the few food surplus countries in the world, right?
Yeah.
So not only can we feed our own population, we have the opportunity to feed this burgeoning population of the world. We should not give up this opportunity and use it very well.
Yeah.
China has not used it very well. The environmental damage of their aquaculture sector is huge, just like them other manufacturing sector. They've polluted their rivers, everything. So we have to do it in an environmentally sustainable way.
Yeah.
And that requires really enlightened political leadership.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. Also requires a large number of accountability when it comes to these, which requires again openness, transparency. Comes with there are just like media used to do it for the
Yeah.
podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And it requires, honest entrepreneurs, right?
Yes, good intentioned
Good
entrepreneurs,
intentioned
which
entrepreneurs.
we can safely say you are. So,
Thank you. Yeah.
I had one thing which just got stuck again. Not sure if that is because of I'm a Marwadi or Bania. It always excites me when there are propositions mentioned when it comes to building up new revenue channels. When you said we can probably open a fund which can focus on aquaculture, you can help us get some light on that. If at all, what are the possibilities and what are the current investors, small level investors, or who are genuinely concerned about this and also understand the proposition when it comes to aquaculture business model? What exactly are we looking in terms of the investors' point of view?
Well, I think you need investors who understand fish or who kind of, even if they don't come from a fishing background, at least enjoys fish, likes fish. Unfortunately, most of the investors I have spoken to, at least in Delhi and Bombay and this thing, are either vegetarians, okay, or they don't want to get into fish and meat and alcohol, that kind. So you really, I'm yet to come across an investor who really understands this sector, yet to. And I've spoken to above 200 VCs till today. So therefore, you need to go and find capital in places where people consume fish, they understand fish, which is the Andhra belt. There's a lot of traditional money all along the Andhra coast. Tamil Nadu, there's money. Kerala, there's money. In fact, a company just when did their IPO, it's called Muka Proteins.
Yeah, one of the speakers from the company, Nagaraj.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. But well, they have been a traditional business and, they took over the family business and professionalized it and all that. But so all along the coast, people with money and who understand aquaculture, who sees the potential in aquaculture, you just need to collect them. And then you have a global example to show, which is someone like Hatch.Blue.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, sounds good. Something to take away for us for sure.
Sure.
Yeah.
And we'll be happy to be a investee
we
of
were,
any such
we were going
venture.
to say. But you guys have been it's been 2 years since the inception of Bonphul.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing the road to maturity is going to take an additional 3 to 5 years.
Yes, easily.
Right.
Easily.
So just for
I
our
think
knowledge,
this year,
yeah,
we would do sales of, without any investment, sales of about $1 million, 8 crores plus.
And this is in the mainly in, you mentioned a fish that is specific to Assam and Guwahati.
Yeah, we
that
might
the
start
main-
Delhi operations very soon.
Okay.
In Delhi.
Right.
So the year has just started.
Yeah.
So we are looking at revenue of about $1 million. But if we get invested, we could do much more
Right.
and profitably.
Yeah.
No loss, no burning cash.
Because
Profitably.
you're setting up units in these geographies, and each geographical unit is in itself profitable. And you have that proof of concept.
Absolutely. So we have 6 co-founders.
Right.
So each co-founder takes care of one revenue stream.
Okay.
So 6 engines pulling, So,
yeah. It's always for any investor, for anyone like looking to see whether a company is going to succeed, you just have to see how their incentives are aligned.
Yeah.
And I think the way you've structured it makes a lot of sense.
Yes.
So even if one engine is pulling fast,
even if one engine is slow or not doing, but other people are kind of pulling.
Nice.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Any upcoming projects you are excited about? You want to share something?
Well, a lot of upcoming exciting projects, but I'm not in a position to talk about them right now, a bit confidential.
Okay.
But our vision remains to become India's first integrated aquaculture company. There's nobody like us. So we'll be the Amul of aquaculture.
Amazing. I think that's one of the best catchphrases we've seen. And the way you explained it, obviously, like this dream seems like you've already put all the pieces in place, and we're
Yes,
just waiting for each one to reach its maturity.
maturity. Absolutely. Absolutely.
With this, I guess we can conclude the podcast, and for sure we have had a lot of learnings, and hope you found it nice.
I had a wonderful time, discussing my passion.
Yeah, and hopefully we can bring you back on, maybe with another industry leader, so that we could pick both your brains together.
Sure.
And hopefully there's synergies there as well.
Sure.
Thank you so much for your time. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Rajiv and Zarif. Thank you.